Hey guys, John with Luxe here. We're going to wrap the headlight on this 2010 Hyundai Elantra here with our light smoke film. We're going to do this with two people. It is possible with one. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. We'll have a video coming later that shows you the tips and tricks on how to do that. But the lowdown is you're going to want to tack the material to the car here and probably up on the hoods, apply heat, and stretch over. But because I have a second set of hands, Billy's going to help me hold this here straight up and down, which is just going to make the initial stretch easier. Light smoke is the most prone to adhesive lines in the install, so the better you get the very first hit with the vinyl, the better it's going to go down on the car. So it's pretty chilly in our shop here. It's low 70s, so we're going to apply just a little bit of heat on the film. You can see it kind of changes to be a little more liquidy looking. And I'm not really adding precise heat, I'm adding it all over the shape. I want it to stretch evenly. If it's warm outside, this may not be necessary. You can see how the vinyl looks right now. That's basically what you want. You want it to look like that. At this point, I'm just going to barely pull. We're going to try to get a line right in the middle of the light, just like this. So you can see we do have quite a bit of lines here on the light, but this is not a problem. We're going to be able to take care of these, especially because we have this nice hinge right in the middle. That hinge is going to allow us to just free this vinyl off the car. We should be able to shrink it right into place using the memory effect. And what's telling me that that's going to happen correctly for me is the fact that all my tension lines are moving in this direction. So you can notice there's tape all the way around the light. I did that so the film doesn't cling to the paint of the car. It lowers the surface tension of the paint. I'm just reaching back here, just barely holding the film off the vehicle. It's even kind of shrinking itself without any heat, but as soon as we apply some heat to this, it's going to be like magical. Just making sure I have a nice edge that has no tension right there. Get it a little bit warm. We're not going to have to do any pulling or anything. We're just going to let the vinyl relax itself. You see it just smoothed out. At this point, get the squeegee and work from that hinge that we drew towards the body of the vehicle. And you can see I'm able to get all the way to the hood part of the car. You can come up here and film if you'd like too, so that you can see this area. You can see right up here with these lines, it almost looks like there's tension there, but there's not. So I can come in with no heat and press that right to the edge of the car, or right to the edge of the light where it meets the hood. So we were able to complete this curve with just that amount of heat that we put on the vinyl already. Now we're going to introduce just a little bit more. The important thing is not to pull right now while the vinyl is hot. I'm going to pull as little as needed to get this to lay down nice and smooth. We go flip over to the hard side of the squeegee to get the edge nice. From here, we're now installed from the center part of the light up towards the hood. So you can see when I apply heat now, we get very little shrink back along this edge. We get very little shrink back right there because we had to pull very little this direction. All the pull was right here, so it caused the film to shrink back into place on top of that light. This front face is going to be much the same way. It's going to be a little bit easier though because it does kind of bulge and protrude out. So the first thing I'm going to do, get this right off. If it were cold outside in the winter, mid to low 60s, I would not be doing this cold right now. I would have kissed this with just a little bit of heat to keep the film from tearing. You can see we have a little finger running right here. I could pull the vinyl up past that, but I really think that I could push that right out. So again, you can see lines in the vinyl. There's a little stretch and tension there. I'm gonna pull my heat gun out, just kiss it with heat, and you'll see when all of those disappear, the vinyl is now in a workable state. Just gonna come right down here, tack it, start to apply everything. This is a little bit short right here. I would have preferred if we would have come a little bit down with the install. So if you're any shorter than this, I would probably scrap this and try again. But I should have noticed that when we initially placed the film down and made the adjustment then. I still have enough to work with here, but what can happen is you need to pull stretch on the film and you have so little that you actually overstretch it. Because when you take this and you turn it to that, that's actually a 50% stretch. You take this and turn it to this, that's also 50%. So because it's a smaller space, you can quickly reach the limits. You want to be careful of that. But from here, this is nice. This is almost glassed out. When I lift this off the vehicle, you're gonna see how that just wants to hug that shape. In order to facilitate that, all we do is just touch it with the heat. There we go. Now here, down. Got a little bit of weirdness right there, so I'm just going to pull it back up. And right off the car. It's a great thing about self-healing and all of the repositionability in the vinyl adhesive. So that you can do that right there and not leave a super dramatic glue line. Can't even tell where the vinyl was lifted. So now here we have this weird little hook. Let's see what we can do. Okay, I actually pressed in a nice crease right there. You can see I can feel it with my fingernail. If this were just a tin film or a calendared vinyl, that would now be ruined. But because this is LightWrap, I can actually fix that. I'm doing that just to make it a little easier to grab under here without influencing any other parts of the light. I'm just gonna lift this off right to the edge of that area. Grab a heat gun. I'm not pulling any tension. I'm just holding it off the light. A little bit of heat. You can see that right there fix itself. From that, I'm just gonna go ahead and apply it down towards the edge. There we go. This whole part is now installed, and all we have to do is finish this out. Lift. And there we go. So now at this point, the tin is completely conformed to the light. We're gonna go into the post-heating procedure. What's gonna happen when we apply heat to an already formed film is that if there's anywhere we haven't applied enough pressure, it's gonna kind of bubble up and we'll have a chance to fix that right away. It's also gonna shrink the edges and show us where tension lies and see if we have anywhere that we need to lift back up and fix. So what we wanna see when we apply heat, see how the vinyl kind of shrinks back, all these become more defined, and all the tension that we put on it wants to relax and go away. So everything looks great here. The surrounding area is not shrinking up a lot, which is exactly what I wanted to see. So it looks like this is all good. I'll see if I can create an issue on the top of the light so I can show you what that looks like. So we have a good tension distribution all over this light, as visible by all of these little fingers right here. But let's say we actually overstretch part of this. What is that gonna look like? Let's take a look. So I am gonna put a little heat on this to keep pulling it off the light. Put a little bit more heat and now really overstretch that film. So now with that overstretched, we'll apply that down. Looks like we have an okay tint, other than the fact that you can see a line right here where the tint's actually darker here and lighter here. That's because we had such a dramatic stretch on such a sharp line. You may not see that, but the other telltale sign that there's actually too much tension here is when we heat this edge. It's not gonna look like the rest of the edges here. Apply it down. See how it pulled back just like that? Super quick. Lift all this off the rest of the car. Heat it all up. Let's look closely and you can see how this tint here bridges that gap like glass. This tint here is bunched up all the way to the edge of the plastic, all the way, and you have this weird line. So you have all these little fingers. What's gonna happen with time is this is actually gonna pull back, and the vinyl is gonna start pulling itself off the light, and you're gonna end up with these really sharp little fingers right there. So we'll see if we can heal that. That's a pretty dramatic stretch. I'm gonna pull that back out. See how the vinyl looks so distorted? As soon as we put the heat gun on it, it will take shape. I'm gonna pull back past where I stretched it and actually shrink it back there to help reduce that line that I put in the tint, letting it relax. And while there's no tension at all, reapply it to the light. We've actually gotten rid of the shade differences. The film was able to handle that and recover, and we were able to set it back down, and that's still gonna be a long-term success. So that's how resilient this film is. So now we're post-heating, just getting the temperature up to about 200 degrees all over the face of the light while applying pressure. Any little squeegee marks or anything that we put into the vinyl will go away in this process, or the sun will take them out later. But this is not a process you can skip. This step, getting the vinyl to the 200 degrees, is what eliminates that memory effect that we just used to cause that problem. Without eliminating that memory effect, the vinyl's always going to want to pull back, whether you reached its limit or not. When you eliminate the memory effect, it stays in its shape unless you overstretched. So at this point, we're ready to trim. This is a completed install. Let's go ahead and do that. Depending on what kind of light you're working on, you're gonna either wanna cut on the edge of the light or the edge of the bumper. It all depends on how sharp that corner is right there, and if the vinyl is either gonna grab around that corner or if it's gonna come back up later. With an install this easy and with this little tension around the edges, it's safe to cut along the edge as long as you're not gonna see that. You just don't wanna see the visible edge. You want the light to look completely tinted like it came that way from the factory. So in this case, I'm not cutting on the bumper side, and I'm not really cutting on the headlight side. I'm cutting right in the middle. I'm just using my finger as a guide to do that. So I want a little bit of an overhang, but not much. And my first attempt is going to be to fold that around into that light. For this, I apply heat just to soften the vinyl, and also because now that I've cut this, there may have been a little bit of a tension in that bridge that disappears. So again, releasing the memory effect of the vinyl. Using the soft hard side of the squeegee, making sure the vinyl can actually grab a hold of the edge of that light, which in this case it can perfectly. So we're not going to be able to tell that this light has tint on it at all, other than the fact that it's a little bit darker than it would have been from the factory. Now, as we transition up here to where the hood is, I may actually want to cut on the hood side, or another technique would be to free the vinyl so that we can pop the hood and make sure that we wrap deep enough into the car so that we don't have a visible edge. Of course, what kind of car you're working on, don't pop it just yet. It'll push up before I free the rest of the film. You're good. Depending on what kind of car you're working on, that may be a requirement or not. You know, if it's a Lamborghini or something, obviously you're gonna want to tint as deep as possible. You want that to look super OEM. Or you may have a customer that just wants to play it safe and make sure that it's gonna stay perfect. Let's see. So here you can see I'm using good knife technique. I'm holding it right into the gap of the car. My finger's on the paint, providing something to slide. Again, just go ahead and kiss the edge with heat to kind of release that tension. Try to shovel the film down. With this edge, I'm going to flip over to the hard side. There's not really any room between here and the car, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the film down here, because I still have plenty of room. And kind of inspect what's going on here. Okay, we actually have a rubber sill. So at this point, I'm actually going to take my blade, or my squeegee, hard side, and I'm running it between the rubber sill and the light to get the tint tucked between the two. That's actually really good. That's going to ensure that that edge is really, really tight. Oh, that's our, okay, good. No, I'm glad you said, because the fender actually goes to right here. Just gonna remove this just to talk about this section for a second longer. But you can see it has how OEM this looks. This is a perfect edge. You can't see any tint. So with a pre-cut kit, with a perfectly pre-cut shape from another company, you're never gonna get this look. You're always going to have a gap of light around the edge. There's no way that you can make a vinyl product that's gonna fit exacting like this, because you saw how much we had to deform the film to get it there. So because of that, most pre-cut kits that you buy online where it's an exact shape, they're actually gonna leave an edge. They do that on purpose because you're a do-it-yourself installer, you're not a pro. So if they make it to where it reaches both edges and you go over here, you're short here. So the simple solution to that is kind of shrink everything down, make the kit idiot-proof, make it to where it's gonna look good, but we're after OEM. We want it to look the best. So when you use one of our kits, the reason we give you the extra material, the blade, all the preparation and everything that you need in this video is because we want you to be able to achieve this look with a perfect tint here and here. It's really not that hard to do. If it is intimidating or this isn't your skill set, we do have a map on our website as well that lets you find a professional installer in your area, and they can do this for you. So at this point, I'm just gonna trim the last bit right here, and then Billy's gonna pop the hood on the car, and we're gonna just look at what we've got. It would have been better if I would have had the hood propped in the beginning, or at least seen what I was dealing with. Be careful right here. Typically you don't have too much room where the body line is, but again, you have a rubber sill. Makes it easy. The knife wants to sit right there and just glide. So we've got that done. Press the tint in. See, I didn't really apply any heat right there when I tucked it in. It's because this was the very edge of the film. There was very, very little tension. There was almost no lines right there. Just gonna be really careful when I pull this that I don't tear the film. And then just to make sure, we'll cut that tape. Again, this is one reason the tape is there. You see how well this tint's stuck to the car, but where it's on the tape, it just lifts right off. It's gonna help the hood slide up through it without us accidentally tearing the tint. To be even more sure, I'm just gonna put a relief cut right there. Okay? Go ahead and pop the hood. You can see that actually should have been done before we started the job, but here I am mid-job and I'm showing you how to recover from it. You don't have to give up if you think you failed. You may be able to recover the film and still get a really nice install. So, I can fold this back. If I'm looking, I do have a nice ledge. Come over here. Let me show you this light. So if you look, we have a really nice ledge. We have a flat ledge going here, and then it goes straight up. Now, we should have cleaned this. This should definitely be completely clean before you start. We'll end up redoing this one, but this is for a tutorial video. So what I'm gonna do to get over that edge, to get a perfect looking tint, is I'm actually gonna just lift this and start to just kind of make sure that I'm at that ledge perfectly. Grab my heat. You'll see, now that we have no hood in the way, as soon as I heat this, look how it kind of glasses right there at that. And use my thumb to work it over the edge. Now it's on this ledge going that direction. I'm not working it all the way to the bottom. I'm just making sure that we don't develop a wrinkle on the top edge that's visible when the hood is closed. But my thumb is not the best tool to get it stuck down deep into that crack. The best thing for that is obviously the squeegee. So now that we have it across the top ridge perfectly, we'll come back in. Not a lot of heat, just enough heat, and that's only because of the temperature here. Go in this front corner, apply a little bit of heat, make sure we get a nice deep wrap around that. So start with my thumb, finish off with the squeegee. One thing I'm noticing is that I'm actually putting a little stretch right there that I don't want. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm not doing that by lifting the vinyl up just a little, one last thing to heat, and while I'm holding it off, driving it down into that corner. So at that edge, I made the cut very, very, very close to the car. There's really no, there's just maybe a millimeter wrapped over kind of hugging that edge, but it's a really sharp edge. That's like I was telling you, it's like this. If I stretch the film, it potentially could just pull back and cut right through on that plastic. So I don't want that to happen. Now we're actually gonna be cutting on a surface of a vehicle. So you could do this with knifeless tape if you had it. If not, we provide you a knife. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to break away and get yourself a very fresh blade. So this will be the first cut on our brand new tip. It's going to require no pressure. So all I'm going to do is use one finger to hold it right here, and I'm just gliding it right along that inside edge, which is really nice for me. It's a nice shape. So it's going to be really easy to glide the knife. No pressure on the knife. All you got to do is just score the film and it'll rip. But also this vinyl is insanely thin, so no pressure is actually a ton. I'm gonna go right down there. Make sure you don't pull up. We're gonna pull away from the direction we cut. So rip the vinyl and be careful at the edge. See if we rip too fast. May have actually torn that, but we're fine. Just gonna cut right there. Now, clean this out. There we go. You can see how perfect that light looks, how close to OEM it is. We have no visible edges that are untinted around the light at all. If it weren't a shade darker than it would be normally, you would not know the tint is there. It makes a dramatic looking effect on this car, especially because of the color. So the last tape here on the hood will shut the hood. Get a full view. Looks very good. All right, guys, so I don't know about how long that was, maybe 10, 15 minutes to do one headlight. If I were actually just tinting this light and not talking you through the procedure, this is gonna take a lot less time, of course. But those are the basics and some of the things you may run into with this style of light. Oh, another note on a headlight, this is our gloss light film. I would not recommend anything darker than our mid gloss film. Mid gloss is gonna eliminate a lot of light output from headlights. It's only really useful if you have a good secondary lighting system like fog lights. The star power and the honeycomb light is good to use on headlights as well. You can use the mid in the same way. Dark is very, very dark. I'd put it on for car shows only, or if you don't worry about needing headlights at night to view. And no stealth, no textures on headlights. The textured films, the carbon, the metal, the stealth, they all diffuse and scatter the light. So while the light smoke doesn't eliminate a lot of light output, it scatters it, so it makes it useless, and your headlights are utterly useless at that point. There we go.